Hi everybody, it's Jeff from Close to Home here for the March block in your Make Yourself at Home Block of the Month series. Very excited. I hope everybody's having a great spring here. I want to do a little housekeeping first because we are getting to the time to vote for last year's Block of the Month winner. So you have one more week to bring in those finished quilts from last year for March's Block of the Month, the Paisley Patch. So April 6th is the deadline to bring those quilts in, get them photographed. I'm here Tuesday through Saturday, so I can hang it up and photograph it for you. So to vote this year, we're going to be attaching a ticket to all of the participants of this year's Block of the Month. That will allow you to vote for your favorite quilt from last year. You're going to see all the quilts online, and then you all come in, bring your ticket, and vote. If you are not participating in this year's Block of the Month, but did participate in last year's Block of the Month, you can also request a ticket, and you are also eligible to vote. Once those quilts are up, that'll be around, so after the 6th, it should be around April 8th. Then you can come in and vote. The voting will go until April 17th, and when we will crown our winner. Thank you so much for everyone who participated. We love the quilts we're seeing. And let's get to this month's block. We're going to do a little block called Illinois. So here we have our block. It's called Illinois. This block comes from a periodical called Hearth and Home, which is a periodical that started publication in the 1880s through about the 1930s. The series that this is taken from is a state series that ran from about 1907 to 1912, where it included all 48 states in the United States at the time, and each got their very own block. I really always enjoyed this series of blocks. Definitely a very old pattern. Was not able to find the original patterns for these, but I've always wanted to make a quilt with a bunch of these, and I've finally gotten my chance. These are the pieces that you'll need to complete this month's block. You're going to get two 5 1/4 inch by 5 1/4 inch pieces from your tourmaline, one 4 1/2 by 4 1/2 inch piece from your tourmaline fabric. You're going to get two 5 inch by 5 inch pieces from your accent color, mine is purple here, and four 2 7/8 by 2 7/8 from your accent color. Then from the background, my black, you're going to get two 5 inch by 5 inch squares, four 2 7/8 by 2 7/8 squares, and four 2 1/2 by 2 1/2 inch squares. The first thing we're going to do is take our two 5 inch by 5 inch background squares, and you're going to mark a diagonal line from corner to corner on the back of the fabric. Then you're going to pair those with your accent color, my purple here. And then, just like before we did on the last 2 months when we did our half square triangles, you're going to stitch a 1/4 inch on each side of the marked line, cut on the marked line, and then you can press those seams either toward that background fabric or open if you cut open. And then make sure that you trim these down. We're going to be trimming down these 4 half square triangle blocks to 4 1/2 inches by 4 1/2 inches. After our half square triangles, we're going to create some flying geese blocks. This month we are going to do 2 of these sets, so we're going to end up with 8 different flying geese blocks, one of them with your accent in the tourmaline, the other with the background in the tourmaline. So you're going to take your 2 7/8 accent squares, mark a diagonal line from corner to corner, and make sure that you place them just as shown here on the screen. Then you are going to stitch a 1/4 inch on each side of the marked line, cut on the marked line, and then press toward the smaller triangles. Then you are going to layer the remaining accent squares as shown on the screen right now, cut on the marked line again, and once again press toward that smaller triangle. So you are going to end up with 4 flying geese with the tourmaline and accent, and 4 with your background and accent. This is just the way we did it before on last month's when we did the flying geese 4 at a time. And these are going to finish at 4.5 inches by 2.5 inches. To make the center, you're going to take your 4 2.5-inch background squares and mark a diagonal line from corner to corner on the back. Then you're going to place 2 of those squares on opposite corners of a 4.5-inch tourmaline square, as shown on the screen here. Then you are going to make sure that you're sewing on the marked line. Remember, we're not doing a 1/4 inch on each side, we're doing it on the marked line for this one. You're going to trim your corners to leave a 1/4 inch seam on each side. Then you can iron those toward the background fabric, or you can iron them open if you prefer. And you're going to repeat those steps. So I'm going to put 2 more of my marked 2.5-inch squares on the other 2 corners. Then I'm going to sew on the marked line, trim to leave a 1/4 inch, and iron those as well to create my centerpiece. Now we need to sew our flying geese pieces together. So you're going to take one of each type, so one with the background and the tourmaline, the other with the accent and the tourmaline. And you're going to sew them all together just like this. Just make sure that you're sewing with that background one, that it looks like it's going into the accent and tourmaline one. And you're going to finish by making 4 of these units. Once you have all those pieces put together, you are going to take your remaining 9 pieces and arrange them as shown on the screen. And now we're just going to sew them together like we would any old 9 patch. So you're going to put your rows together and sew those. Then those rows are going to get sewn into the full block. And there you have it, Illinois. And don't forget, if you are doing the suggested setting, don't forget to add your houses. So thank you so much for joining us this month, and we'll see you next month on April 26th for the next block.